law signs today in class, and there were a few people absent, so I'm going to review it. The law signs is used to solve triangles, and when we talk about solving a triangle, that means finding all the missing parts. And we have worked on right triangle trig, but when you don't have a right triangle, you need to use something called the law of sines to find the missing parts. And if that doesn't work, then you would need to use something called the law of cosines. But as we talked about in class, we're only going to focus on law of sines right now. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about law of cosines. And then after that, we'll mix up all three methods so you can practice deciding when you need to do what method. So here's a triangle to the right, and also written above is a ratio and proportion of three different ratios. And so if we just sort of think about the ratio and proportions that are here, this is kind of the rule. And we're going to use that rule to find missing parts of this triangle. So it just says that the value of the sine of A compared to the length of side A would be equal to the value of the sine of B compared to the length of side B, and that's also equal to the value of the sine of C compared to the length of side C. So it's a lot to say, but it's actually quite straightforward to do. So I'm going to just set up a problem. So in the problem to the right, if I wanted to find the missing sides, I would have to use the law of sines, and I have to decide like which two pieces to work with. If you think about this being one piece, that being the second piece, and this being the third piece. So in order to do that, I'm going to just decide that I want to find, say, side B first. So if I want to find side B, I would just have to see if I have enough information. So I would look and I would write the sine of angle B, which is 67 degrees, over side B. And then I would have to make another ratio. So right now I don't have angle A, so I'm going to go with angle C and write the sine of angle C, which is 76 degrees, and divide that by side C, which is always opposite C. So in other words, if this is angle C, we would call that side C. So the lowercase letter represents the length, and the uppercase letter represents the angle. And then, since I'm looking for B, that's what I need to find, I almost multiply the two numbers on the diagonal. So 21 times the sine of 67 degrees, and then I'm going to divide by the third number, which is divide by the sine of 76 degrees. And that's going to be equal to the value of B. So I'm going to pause this and use my calculator. So you guys should also keep practicing with your calculator. When I work this out, I get rounded to the 10th place that B is 19.9 units. So to continue that process, Now that I know B is 19.9 units, I'm going to go ahead and find A. But in order to find A, I need to find the measure of angle A. And since I have a triangle, and I know that two of the angles were 67 and 76 degrees, that adds up to 143. So to complete the 180 degrees, I would need 37 more degrees. So I need to find that out in order to use the law of sines. So I'm going to erase this scratch work here. And I know that the measure of angle A is 37 degrees. So now I'm going to try to find side length A. So I'm going to say the sine of the measure of angle A compares to the side A as, and now I have a choice of using the B value or the C value. And in class we talked about always going back to the original value because there won't be a rounding error. But we also talked about learning how to store on the calculator. We'll work more on that in class. So I'm going to use the sine C over side C, and I should have put in the value of C, so I'm just erasing that. So C is 76 degrees. So now I have this diagonal. So I'm going to say 21 times the sine of 37 degrees divided by the sine of 76 degrees is equal to the length of A. And when I type that into my calculator to the nearest 10th place, I get A is 13.0. So that's the law of sines.